When I look back over my life, I see all the things God's done for me. So much He has done.
Yeah.
I can't tell it all.
I just can't tell it all.
He's been my all in all.
He's been my all in all.
I just can't tell it all.
Can't tell it all.
Oh, what the Lord has done for me. When I think of His goodness and all He's done for me, my soul cries out, hallelujah. I thank God for saving me. He's been my all in all. I just can't tell it all. What the Lord has done for me. I will sing one day, He healed my body, that's what He's done.
That's what He's done for me.
He gave me a song that the angels can sing. Hallelujah. I've been redeemed. That's what the Lord has done for me. I got one more thing to say. He picked me up out of the mountain Mary clay. That's what He's done. He placed my feet on a solid rock to stay. That's what He's done. That's what the Lord has done for me. Yeah. Hey. Oh, I can't. I just can't. I can't tell it. I can't. I just can't. I can't tell it. I can't tell it all. How He picked me up, turned me all around. I can't. I can't tell it. If I had 1,000 tongues, I can't tell it. I just can't. I can't tell it. I can't tell it. You can't tell it like I can tell it. Just what the Lord, what He's done for me. I can't tell it. I just can't tell it. I can't tell it. How He's picked me up. He's been good. The Lord's been good. The Lord's been good. I can't tell it. Can't tell it. I can't tell it. Just can't tell it all. Oh, I can't. I can't tell it. No, 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 no. I can't tell it. If you had 1,000 tongues, you can't tell everything the Lord done for you.
Well, he's worthy to be praised.
He's worthy to be praised. Praise him. Praise him. He's worthy to be praised.
Praise him. Praise him. He's worthy to
be praised.
Oh, praise him. Praise him. Somebody know that he from the rising up
Rising of the sun to the setting of the same.
my God is worthy.
Worthy to be praised.
Every knee shall bow,
He shall bow.
every tongue must confess. Somebody know that he
Worthy to be praised.
can y'all just help us just say this right here? Lift him, hey, hey, higher. Why you gonna lift him? Because he is.
Worthy to be praised.
Lift him. Somebody came to lift Jesus higher. Why you gonna do it, preacher? He will.
Worthy to be praised. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord.
Praise.
Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord.
Praise.
Praise the Lord.
He's worthy.
Worthy to be praised.
Praise him. Praise him. You ought to praise him. You ought to praise him. Somebody came to praise. You ought to praise him. Anybody got a praise in you? But then while you're praising, we got to lift him. You got to lift him higher. Come on and lift him. Hey, hey. You got to lift him. You got to lift him higher. Come on and lift him higher. Hey, hey, hey. You ought to lift him. You ought to lift him higher. His name. Jesus. His name is Jesus. 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 His name is Jesus. 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 Mary's baby. Jesus. Mary's baby. Jesus. Ezekiel's will. Jesus. 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 A strong horse in a time of storm. A way maker when the way is short. Jesus. 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 His name is Jesus. 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 His name is. His name is. His name is. His His name is Jesus. His name. He's my horse in the time of trouble. Anybody know the name? Have you called the name? His name. You can call him in the morning. You can call him in noonday. His name. He'll rock you in the midnight hour. His name is. Somebody call him Jesus. Somebody call him Jesus, because his name. Have you tried him? Won't he come and see about you? Have you tried him? His name is. 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 Jesus. I want to ask one question. Have you tried him? I want to know, have you tried the man? If my grandmother was here, she'd tell you, if you try the man, he's all right. Hey, he's all he's all right. Yeah. He's all he's all right. Sister Maxwell, I know how good he's been to me, because I tried him for myself. Some of y'all over there, y'all want to sit down, y'all want to act high-sedity. But if you ever tried him, you know the man is all right. Won't he do it? I said, won't he do it? Won't he do it? He'll dry your tears. Yeah. He will. If y'all be truthful with me just for a minute, would you agree with me when I said there is something about the name Jesus that ain't good enough? I need some folk to agree with me just for a minute. Would you agree with me when I say there is something about the name Jesus? I need some folk that know what I'm talking about. You can call him in the morning. Anybody ever woke up early in the morning, couldn't sleep, but when you, because it was something you were wrestling with, you had to have a talk with him. So somebody has called him in the morning, but somebody has called him at noonday. Even in the evening. But I know I got some warriors that'll say late in the midnight hour I called on the name Jesus and I found out that he's alright. He's alright. Look at somebody that don't know what you're talking about. Tell him he's alright. Yes! 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 He's alright. Lord, I just feel this. I know he's all right. I know he's all right. Y'all, I don't mean to be a puss, but pull somebody close to you because you don't know what they're going through. You don't know what they've been through. You don't know what they're dealing with. You don't know the pain that they've gone through in the last week. You don't know what they've gone through in the last month, even in the last year. But pull your neighbor close to you and tell your neighbor, I don't know what you're going through, but tell your neighbor that everything is gonna be all right. It's gonna be all right. It's gonna be all right. Tell them, hold on a little while longer. Hold on. Oh, God. Let me. Yeah. Oh, yeah. 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 Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Hey. Thank you, Lord. Oh, thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. I know somebody wondering why we can give him thanks. He's been so good. I wish I had a witness in here that knows he's been so good. Yes, he's been good. Yeah, you've been good. He's been good. Tried it for myself and I know he's been good. Sure been good. I don't know what he did for you. I'm a preach. But he made a way. See, your way may not have been what you thought, but he made the way. He made a way. Somebody ought to lift your hand and know he made a way. Yeah. He made a way. He made a way. He made a way. Y'all, last week I started this sermon entitled Stop Playing Games. And in that sermon, I talked about how those of us who make up the church, we don't take serious the things that God takes serious. Solomon said in Ecclesiastes 5 that God does not take pleasure in dealing with fools. The problem is Solomon was going about the city. He went into the temple and he saw the same people coming into the temple, leaving the same way that they came. They came in hurting and came in with problems and going through various things. But yet they went into the temple. They were praising God. They were giving their gifts, their sacrifices. They were making their vows. But yet they were leaving the same way that they came. There was no change in them. And literally, they were playing games with God. They had gotten caught up in what I called reckless rituals. They were just going through the motions. And here we are, brothers and sisters, oftentimes week after week. We come and leave the same way that we came. And the reality is we are a people who are playing. We're playing games. Y'all can sit down. I'm preaching. We're playing games we don't take serious. The things that are serious to God. And you know what? I found out, Sam, that many of us take life for granted. Just last week, I'm standing in this very same pulpit at 12 noon talking about one of the best basketball players to ever play the game. I'm jokingly talking about this jersey that I have on, not knowing that at the same moment that I'm talking about him, this man, this human being who had money, this man who was a pillar of an entire city and an entire nation, was going down to his death in a helicopter crash. And here it is, brothers and sisters. He woke up that morning not knowing that was going to be his last day on earth. And here we are, brothers and sisters. Here we are, the children of God. Just because we wake up in the morning doesn't mean we're going to see tomorrow. Doesn't mean you're going to even see the next hour. And the truth be told, brothers and sisters, many of us are just like these folk that Solomon was talking to. When it comes to God, we're playing games. Here it is. They got caught up in reckless rituals. Solomon said they were quick to talk, but they were slow to listen. You know, it just amazes me how the Sunday school lesson talked about how Moses talked to a people and told them the importance of hearing and listening to the word and the statutes, the commands of God. And brothers and sisters, many of us come week after week when it comes to worship. And we always want to hear ourselves talk. We want to hear, we want people to hear what we got to say. But the truth be told, many of y'all, many of us need to sometimes shut up Be quiet and hear what God is trying to say to you. And I know because some of y'all over there done already turned me off. Y'all done already tuned me out. Because you're saying, Pastor, I don't need to hear what you're talking about. You're the one I need to talk to. Because here it is. And I made this statement last week. We listen and we post stuff on Facebook and all these other social media sites. And we listen and hear what they have to say. But, I found out that those things ain't nothing but a bunch of mess. I really believe it's the trick of the enemy. And I know somebody saying, well, it's how you use it. Baby, let me tell you something. If stuff is on there that you read, you got to be careful, because when I get to my next point, I'm going to tell you what you read and what you take in is going to sit inside of you, and what's in you will come out. And what we've got to understand, brothers and sisters, there's a right and a wrong way to come to worship. The wrong way is to come, like Solomon said, making the sacrifice of fools. Meaning you just like to hear yourself talk. You know how that one, y'all know, I'm trying to be nice. That's why I want y'all to say, yeah, Pastor, I know what you're talking about. I'm trying not to say it, because you know that one that's always running their mouth and always got something to say. Baby, you got to watch those. But we've got to understand, when we come to worship, we ought to come slow to speak, yet quick to listen. So when it comes to playing games, you got to stop playing games, because playing games involves reckless rituals. But then the second thing, and I'm just going to preach one point today. Not only does playing games involve reckless rituals, just in case y'all don't know, I'm in Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 1 through 7. Verse 1 through 7. So not only does it include reckless rituals, but playing games also involves careless conversation. What are you talking about, Pastor? Look, Solomon in verses 2 and 3. Y'all look at this now. In verse 2 and 3, he said, be not rash with your mouth, nor let your heart be hasty to utter a word before God. For God is in heaven, you on earth, therefore let your words be few. For a dream comes with much business, and a fool's voice with many words. Now, I want y'all to see this, because this can actually show up in two forms. Oh, God Almighty. Solomon says that when you come to worship, one of the things that's involved in worship is prayer. And Solomon is literally telling us that prayer is serious business. Y'all hear me good? Prayer is like, how many folk in here been married? Been married, is married, but you stood before the preacher. And the preacher told you when you got married that marriage is not to be entered into lightly. Is that what he said? Or carelessly, but in the fear of God. Can I suggest to you this morning, when it comes to prayer, prayer is not something that you ought to take lightly. Prayer is not something you ought to just look at as just a commonality, whatever the word, commonality of life. Y'all know what I'm trying to say. It ought not be something that you just do. Prayer is something that you ought to take serious. Matter of fact, I'm going to be real with y'all. Well, I don't know if this is the right crowd to say this to. but somebody in here may fit in this group. If you were invited to the White House and they told you to prepare some words, I said this might not be the right group. And they told you to prepare some words. Well, you know what? I don't even want to talk about the White House. If you had to go to Buckingham Palace before Queen Elizabeth, you would prepare words. They would be proper. They would be distinct. You would present yourself right in front of the Queen. Can I tell y'all something? When it comes to prayer, you've got to realize no one or nothing on this earth ought to take a greater importance than the Almighty God. And when it comes to God, you ought to try or want to give God your very best. Even when it comes to your prayer life. I'm talking about many people pray these what I call flippant prayers, and they just try to use a whole lot of words. They try to talk a whole lot. They try to sound good when they pray. You know, because let me tell you something. Y'all remember that when we was growing up, you always had one deacon that when he prayed, or one of them old sisters that, and sisters, I ain't just picking on y'all, but they ain't prayed, look like they ain't prayed all month long. And when they come up here and start praying, you can quote everything they gonna say, when they gonna say it. You know how they gonna talk about how they reached down. God, you reached down and you did this. Y'all know I'm being real with you. And we try to please God using all these words. We try to talk like we got a whole lot of education and try to use them words that we don't even understand what they are. And Solomon said, when it comes to God, look at this now. He said, a dream comes with much business and a fool's voice with many words. Let me tell you something. When you ain't doing nothing but talking a whole lot, you sound just like a fool. Craig Collier didn't call you no fool. That's what the book said. And so when it comes to our prayer lives, can I suggest to you what John Bunyan said? It is better to have a heart without words than words without a heart. Why do you say that? Because what's in you, y'all ought to talk back to me, will come out of you. Y'all look at this. Look at this now. Look at this. If you pray just to impress people, then there's something wrong with your prayer life. The one person that you ought to be trying to get through to is God. You ought not be concerned about your English, your grammar, how you breaking verbs. You ought not be concerned about that kind of stuff, because when you're talking to God, God needs to hear your heart. He don't need to hear your education and how much you learned at the schoolhouse and on the job. God needs to hear your heart. Y'all, that reminds me of this little educated boy that went down to this convention, and he got up and they asked him if he would pray, and he got up and he started praying and started using all these big words and using words that many of us probably wouldn't even know how to pronounce, nor know the meaning of the words. And he sat there and prayed this long prayer, prayed, and folk just looked at him. But then the man that was running the meeting looked out there and saw this little old lady. Told that lady, say, ma'am, will you come pray? That woman got up there. looking at her, you know, she probably didn't have but a 5th grade education. Grew up in the country, didn't have much. But when that woman opened her mouth, she wasn't messed up about no words. But when she started pouring her heart out to God, the folk even in that convention, in that meeting, they started crying and hollering and shouting. And they after the meeting, they asked the question, well, how is it that this person was up there praying and didn't nobody say nothing, but when that old lady started praying, everybody started shouting and everything. He said, the difference is that man knew the prayer, but that woman knew the God that was going to answer that prayer. And somebody here knows that when you know God, when you got a relationship with him, you might not use no big words. You might not open no dictionary and pronounce everything right. But when you know him, you pour out your heart to him. And I'm looking at some folk in here. You may not can use no big words. And you might be like me. I'm messing up all these sentences. But God knows what my heart, and he knows what's on the inside of me. So every now and then when I start praying, I start out cute. But when I look at what I've been through, I need some folk right over there to help me preach this little part. When I look at what I've been through, when I look at the storms that I've endured, when I look at some of the painful situations that I've gone through, but the good news about everything I'm saying, I went through them. Why did I go through them, Maxwell? Because I had a God that when I got in the midst of it, I didn't have to use no big words. I just say, Lord, have mercy. And then if some of y'all real warriors that's done been through some stuff, Mother Riley, you can help me preach it. Some of y'all real warriors that know what you've been through. There was sometimes you couldn't even find words. Y'all been there? You be crying so much. Tears be streaming down your face. You get so caught up in your prayer and communication with God that you forget what you're talking about. You just start. Sometimes you got to have some of them waving moments where you can't say nothing, you can't find words. Sometimes you just ought to. But in your mind you be saying, Lord, you sure been good to me. God, you know what I've been through. God, you know what I'm going through. God, you know what I just went through, God. But right now, I just need you to show up in the situation. Sometimes you just got to talk to God like you're talking to one of your friends. Because guess what? Don't you know God is a friend that sticks closer than a brother? Don't get like these folk that get caught up in trying to be cute. Get caught up in trying to use all these words. Be praying 10 minutes and ain't said nothing. Yeah. They just say the same thing, they just change the word. Y'all understand? That's what Solomon says. When it comes to our relationship with God, we need to stop playing games when it comes to our prayer life. But then let me tell you the other side of that. You got to be careful, even how you talk to each other. Some of y'all are good at going and just saying what you want to say. And can I really tell the truth? Some of y'all lie so much on the spirit Say the Lord told me, the Spirit told me to tell you a lie. The Spirit ain't told you to tell nobody nothing. Quit lying on the Spirit. We just like to hear ourselves talk. We like to run our mouths. But Solomon said, look, a dream comes with much business, and a fool's voice with many words. Be careful about that one running to you. Always want to run their mouth. Because the book calls them a fool. Craig Collier didn't call him. I'm going to keep throwing that before y'all. Y'all, we're at a point in life where it's time to stop playing these games. You and I ought to take serious our relationship with God. Now don't get me wrong. I ain't saying like I told them in Sunday school. I ain't saying you're going to live a perfect life. No, by no means. You're not going to live a perfect life. But you want to make sure that if you close your eyes today, you want to hear the Lord's voice say, well done. Because can I tell y'all something? Some of them same folk that Solomon saw running in and out the church, some of them same folk that was praying, that was praising God, that was worshiping God, that was giving their gifts, that were making their vows, some of those same folk, when they get before Jesus, Jesus going to say, I don't even know you. But Lord, I was out there preaching, and I was out there praying, and Lord, I gave a lot of money. I don't know you. Get out my face. Brothers and sisters, it's time to take serious the things that are serious to God. Don't be in that number that Solomon talked about. Don't be in that number that says that God doesn't take pleasure. I don't want to be in that group. When it comes to my relationship with God, I've got to be serious about my worship, and I've got to be serious about my conversation. I got to talk right. I got to be right. I got to say the right things to you. I'll not say anything that's going to tear you down. I'll not say anything that's going to hurt your feelings. And y'all, I'm going to my seat, but I want to say this. You may say something that you don't think hurt somebody's feelings. But what you think and what they think are two totally different things. Sometimes you got to learn the hard way. You can joke, you can play with people, but you don't know what that person is going through. You don't know what they're dealing with. You don't know what situation they're in right then. So we just got to learn to shut up sometime. And I know some of y'all love to hear y'all self-talk. How many of y'all like to hear y'all self-talk? Y'all ain't gonna even answer that question. I got two over there that was honest. Y'all love to hear y'all self-talk, don't you? And y'all always right, ain't you? I knew I'd get half. One out of the two said yeah. But y'all, that's real talk. It's time to stop playing games. Life is too short. Many things we take for granted. I'm through preaching. I'm in my clothes right now. I'm hooping right now. Many things we take for granted. But y'all, life is too short. I can look around this room. Some of you don't look like what you're going through. But can I tell you something? When you got a relationship with God, that's what gets you through the rough times. That's what gets you through the most difficult moments of your life. Somebody may be saying, well, Pastor, I'm good now. I ain't there. Well, grandmother said, keep living. Today may not be your day. But if you hold on just a little while longer, your day is coming. And y'all can sit there and look at me right crazy. But yeah, it's on the way. But you've got to understand. It's time out for us playing. When we come to church, when we come to worship, worship ought to be the priority of every believer. I told y'all last week, worship is the highest, is the greatest part of the ministry of a believer. Because you have the privilege to worship God. That's what you were created for. God didn't create you because he needed you. And that's the way many church folk think. God need me. Don't you know if you quit and stop, God already got a ram in the bush? I like that old saying, and it ain't got nothing to do with the Bible. One monkey don't stop no show. Hey, I like that one. And I ain't call them no monkey. I'm just saying what they said. Oh, God. Okay, some of y'all going to sleep on me. It's time for me to quit. I get that next week. I get on Dan next week. Yeah, but y'all make sure you come back next week, because I'm going to show you how many of us say certain things, but don't do what we say. Many of us make promises to God, but we don't keep them. Matter of fact, Solomon, if y'all go home and read this text, Solomon said, it's better that you don't make a vow than to break it. Oh, God, I'm going to preach that point. I'm going to be through, because I know some of y'all ready to go home, but I need y'all to hear that. Y'all read that. Okay. Somebody here today may not have understood what this was all about. This sermon, this dialogue is all about. Because you may not have relationship with Jesus. I want you to understand something. Oftentimes when preachers preach out of the Old Testament, many folk believe, but that doesn't have anything to do with Jesus. Every book in the Bible points to Jesus. And the question is, why does it point to Jesus? It's because through Jesus, you and I have direct access to the Father. And in order to have direct access to the Father, you got to go through Jesus. In John 14, that famous, what I call funeral passage that we always hear at funerals. It's not a funeral sermon. It's not a passage for funerals. Jesus was trying to prepare his disciples because he was getting ready to die. And he tried to show them because their hearts were heavy. Their hearts were broken because they had walked with him for over 3 years. And now he's telling them, I'm getting ready to go. I've been trying to tell y'all this. He said that I've been trying to tell y'all. I got to go to the cross. I've got to die. And Jesus says, let not your heart be troubled. If you believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. He said, I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare that place for you, I'm coming again to receive you unto myself, that where I am, there you may be also. Yes, Thomas said, well, how do we know the way? Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the light. No man comes unto the Father but by me. If you're here today and you want a relationship with God, you got to believe that Jesus went to the cross, gave his life, was buried in a tomb, stayed there 3 days and 3 nights, but early Sunday morning, the Bible declares that he got up with all authority in heaven and in earth. If you can believe that, then you can be saved. Maybe you're here today. You haven't made that decision. Right where you are, you can be saved. If you simply just ask God to come into your life. If you say to yourself and say to God, I believe that Jesus died. I believe that he was buried. I believe he rose. I'm confessing you as my personal Savior. If you said those words, you're saved. If you say those words, I want you to step out on faith. I want everybody standing. I want everybody standing. Maybe you're here today already saved, but yet you're out of fellowship. The relationship is there, but you don't have a church home. You need a covering. You need somewhere to worship. You need somewhere to come and fellowship with other believers. Today, this invitation is for you. Right now is the best time that you have. Don't put off today. Don't put out for tomorrow what you can do today. Tomorrow is not promised to us. Maybe you're here today, already saved, already in relationship, already in fellowship, but yet you're going through something. You just need somebody to pray with you, to intercede on your behalf. I want you to just step out in the aisles, our deacons and ministers in the aisles, to pray with you right where you are. This invitation is extended. We don't invite you to a church, but we invite you to a relationship with Jesus Christ. Won't you step out on faith right now? We offer Christ to you.
Offer Christ to you.
Oh, my brother.
Oh, my brother.
We offer Christ to you. Oh, my sister.
Oh, my sister.
He will give you new life. More
abundantly.
Oh, come. Come on to Christ. We offer Christ to you. Oh, my brother. We offer Christ.
Oh, my sister.
He will give you new life. No. Oh, come on. Come. You are weary. Yeah. You are weary, yeah. Come on, come. You are weary. Come on. Come on. Come. You are weary. Come on. Come on to Christ, to Christ, to Christ. Come on to Christ. Amen. We see that there are none, yet there is still room. The harvest is ripe, the laborers are few. Let us continue.